Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, this is Doc Pop once again, and I want to talk a little bit about New York City and what's going on here in New York City with the new mayor. Uh, if you ever asked yourself how New York City became a sanctuary city in the first place, have you ever asked yourself that question? Me growing up in New York City. Uh, you see how that works? I grew up in New York City. I live in New York City, so I think I'm qualified to speak on New York City. To all you immigrants, you see how that works? Okay, you see how that works? All right. Now, when I was growing up in New York City, in neighborhoods such as my neighborhood, which was in the South Bronx, uh, the primary people in those neighborhoods were foundational black Americans were in all these neighborhoods, which was the majority population in these neighborhoods. You might have a few Puerto Ricans sprinkled in here or there, but primarily it was all foundational black Americans in these neighborhoods. Okay? So whatever happened, like right now, if you look at the population of the Bronx alone, it's just overflooded with Hispanics. All over. You didn't even see no Mexicans when I was growing up, around. But now, that's all you see. We used to have a saying, they don't die, they just multiply. And we see that has happened. So now places like the Bronx is mostly an Hispanic population due to immigration. And so when things like that happen, you have those majority that came in that was mainly immigrants. You'll change the dynamic of the city and the politics of the city. Okay, so now taxpayers or people who were originally from these neighborhoods now have to bow down to the majority in a democratic society, which are mainly immigrants, and basically a lot of them are illegal immigrants. Right? So, and then once they get on the city council, they're going to want their families to come over, so the laws are going to change. So now we have had, like, since Koch came in, which passed an executive order 124, that the first time in history that allowed New York City to become a sanctuary city. Now, how did they do that? Because I never took a vote, but he did that on his own, and I guess he has support from the city council, because in order to vote anything in the law, the city council has to, make those type of decisions. And of course, if you had basic immigration coming in, there was a few Caribbeans coming into the city here in New York around 1965. That's after the Civil Rights Bill had been passed. So you had immigrants coming from the Caribbean to New York. But like I said, these numbers were very small. But mainly, the Dominican population came in from the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Ricans, of course, and many other Hispanics, that definitely, caused this overflow of Latino populations in New York City. Now, black women, it didn't help. The aborting of the babies didn't help anything as far as bringing our population up, or keeping it to a level, that would have been, beneficial to us, in our numbers. So here we have in 1989, Ed Koch, he signed Executive Order 124, making New York City a sanctuary city all the way at night. So this thing did not just happen overnight. We had from 1987, and then you had David Dinkins that came right behind Koch from 1990 to 1993. He kept that sanctuary city thing, he kept it going. So now you have Rudy Giuliani, who also upheld the sanctuary city policy. All right. Then you had Bill de Blasio that came in. Well, after Giuliani, you had Mike Bloomberg that came in. Now, he was voted in as a Republican, but later he became an independent, and then after that, he did become a Democrat. That's Mike Bloomberg. And then Bill de Blasio came in, who was a Democrat. Okay, and what he did in 2014, the sanctuary protections were expanded into city law. So here was Bill de Blasio taking it from an executive order and making it law. So, so what did that mean? That means, he took, because at one time ICE was allowed to be in Rikers Island, so he removed ICE from Rikers Island and made it harder for the Department of Corrections and the New York City Police Department to cooperate with ICE. Bill de Blasio did that, okay? And now you had Eric Adams. And so Eric Adams, basically because, Bill de Blasio tied this sanctuary city thing into law, so, here was David Dinkins. He just couldn't write it out of law. It takes, these things to go through city council and then, to be changed. So, a lot has to be done now for things to be changed, And guess what? So who's footing that bill? Long-standing New Yorkers that been here for a long time, way before these migrants got here, and of course, during Joe Biden's 4 years in office, and having a tremendous amount of illegals come into the city. Why? Because it's a haven. It's a sanctuary city. They protect immigrants. I mean, a lot of places in this city that you go, they don't even ask for ID. They don't even want to know a lot of different things to sign you up for a lot of different things because of these city policies. They don't really dig deep into you, which I think they should. But they don't do it, man, because of these sanctuary laws and policies of New York City. And to me, it's just like a migrant takeover, far above what the citizens want. And because here's an immigrant mayor coming in, want to increase people's property tax. And, everything that he said he stood for, man, was a lie, basically. Because it's going to hit every New Yorker when property taxes go up. Every time things like this happen, it always gets passed on to the consumer to foot the bill. Period. Listen, man, who benefits from migrants coming into New York or even into America? Businesses. Because each mouth that has to be fed is going to bring more money in for businesses. Later for the people and what the people are going to suffer behind it, they do not care about that. Listen, man, again, man, it's going to be a short video. And I just want to show you, right here. Now, this is Mandami's proposal, right? He, 127 billion migrant support. I mean, that's the first thing on his list. around 1.2 billion additional spending towards migrant services and emergency support. I mean, what's up, baby? I'm a black American. We never got this type of support from the city for black Americans. Here, we never really got that type of bill just supporting us. Never. But yet, and when they say migrants, they mean illegal migrants. That's what the sanctuary city does. It harbors illegal migrants. Period. Let me say this here. Since I've been living in New York or in America, since I was born in America, I never seen in my lifetime this type of divide in government and this type of thing going on. If you think about it, it just seems like this is something that a migrant would do. A migrant that hates Americans and America. That they would give you the bill for them. Give you the bill, hand you the bill to take care of them. Instead of take care of your own. See, the Bible said, he that don't take care of his own, especially those of his own house, is worse than an infidel. Those that don't know God or love God or has nothing to do with God. So this is what's going on in a so-called Christian nation. That here is that we don't take care of ourselves, but we take care of people, man, outsiders. Coming in from every other place. Except taking care of those, man, of your home. So imagine what the judgment's going to be for people like that there. Now, we got Madani proposing that, and then what he's going to do like this, because Eric Adams said, okay, we need an additional 5,000 additional police officers, for public safety. Madani said, nah, we could scratch that. I guess that money's going to the migrants. This is crazy right here. All right, he's going to cut $30 million, dollars from library budget. All right, but he campaigned on protecting them. And the rest. He's trying to dip into the till, dip into people's retirement, and all. See, This seems pretty weird to me, man. He's trying to bankrupt Americans while at the same time giving all the American dollars, man, to immigrants. Check out the game. All right? Check it out. All right, man, so that's all I got, man. I peeped the game. So he said that immigrants built America. Nah. Or built New York. No. Immigrants, man, had bankrupt New York is what it is. All right? So, man, that's all I got for you, man. Either subscribe, like the video, do whatever, man. I just needed to get this out here, man, and let you know what the real deal is. And through the years, like I said, in 1990 up until from 1980s to the 1990s up until now, when we saw mass illegal immigrant, and they say, well, don't say illegal, say undocumented. So why do you want to make it sound fancy? Well, because the law is that even though they undocumented, it's still not it's a civil crime and not really a criminal crime. Well, it's high time we make it to the criminal crime, and maybe that would deter some people by trying to come over here illegally. You're making it too easy. In other countries, man, if you try to cross their border, in certain areas, man, then, that means, man, you're going to get shot. They're going to leave lethal force. Meaning, man, they're going to shoot you. You understand? In certain countries. And I'm not suggesting, man, that is what it is, man, but you should make it more harsh when people try to come over here undocumented or illegal, however you want to put it. I'm out.